All right, so coming back to the question I had before the break, this was about the forward secrecy notions, right? And I said, can you give me a protocol which is insecure in this sense, right? Meaning that you don't have an implication here. Has someone found a protocol? Someone tried to find a protocol? Is there a good reason why you shouldn't try to find a protocol?
The cakes are so good.
What's that?
The cakes
Okay, I can't compete with that. So the informal argument that you cannot find a protocol is that the two notions are in fact equivalent. Now, if you think about this, so what we talk about here is we have additional execution between honest parties. They should not be breakable. Now here's the reduction. I can show you that if I have a protocol which is secure here, it must also be, sorry, we're going which way? This should be implied. And we want to show this, right? So what I'm going to do is, instead of running the executions down here, what I will just do, I will run them all up here. Think of this in terms of our adversary, right? The adversary in the first phase, before the corrupt happens, just presses the exec button trillions of times. And trillions of times between each possible combinations of parties. And it records all these sessions. And later, if the adversary in this setting here asks, oh, I want to see another session between two honest parties, I will just go to on my database and pick one and saying, here it is. Okay, this means that all these executions here could have happened up here. And up here, they're both secure. Right? And this also means that this one here is secure, and we get the implication. Questions?
So you're saying now that FS implies extended FS?
Yes.
But earlier we said that extended FS implies weak FS. We also said that FS does not imply weak FS.
No, I erased this. So, right, that's the setting. Probably not.
But not the left. Oh, I see.
Probably not. I would assume it's not true. I haven't thought about this. Would be positive that you can find a counterexample. Okay, but basically this just tells you that yes, weak PFS is implied by FS, right? Because it's equivalent to extended FS, and that's kind of trivial in this execution. But this is all these arguments I gave you are on a very informal level. I'm not sure if you dig into the model and you pick some strange session identifiers and whatever. Unless I've seen a proof, I would say yes. My intuition is this should be true, but go prove it. You're arguing about what implication or lack of implication? This one? Okay, the other direction. Again, my intuition, it should hold, and I gave you the example of you push this exec button a lot of times, but I haven't given a proof, I haven't seen a proof of this.
If you can do so, if that is that sort is FS, but
yeah.
But I don't think I'm not sure you can enforce
Okay. But the example was if something bad, if I can do something bad, and then I basically dump all my memory, then this may go wrong. The thing is, the argument I gave you was only for stateless schemes. Yeah. Right? That's why I can press this exec button trillions of times earlier, and then just say later, hey, these are the executions. If there's some state in between, then doing these exec earliers may not comply with what has happened afterwards, right? This we talk about stateless here.
And I think that is also the other task of query attackers could make some queries that depend on both the certain state and having the time key. But I'm not
Yeah, if state is involved, the situation may be completely different. Okay, so let's go back to our zero round-trip time. This is again the QUIC protocol. So you send an ephemeral key, you compute first G to the S, ES with the semi-static key, send data, then you get the ephemeral key, and then you compute G to the ET, and as well on the server side, right? These are the keys. And again, authentication of the server is because the informal argument, the only party which can send an authenticated, encrypted and authenticated message here is the server, because only the server knows the secret key to G to the S, right? So it's the only party which can combine this with G to the E. Okay. We have looked into this protocol back in 2014 and saying, yes, this is good. Period. Okay. There's one interesting thing is, if you think in terms of zero round-trip time, if you go back to the general slide, not only affected by. So if you think about this, right, you see that if I connect later, then it's only the client contributing to the key, to this early key, right? I mean, there's a static key of the server, but the static key is used throughout many, many executions. If you recall what we had about nonces, for example, right, you pick fresh nonces on both sides, this completely goes away. Maybe the client picks a nonce here and does something else, but the server certainly cannot contribute to this key beyond through its semi-static key. And this opens up the possibility of replay attacks. So again, this is QUIC. So assume you already have the server's semi-static key, and now you're connecting, you're picking your ephemeral key, and you send data. So here's what the adversary can do. The adversary is going to resend the exact data. It doesn't matter if you also have a nonce here or whatever, you can just resend the nonce. It's irrelevant. Now the typical example you hear in this discussion is, what if this is buy something and then you get it shipped twice, right? Because you're going to buy this again if the adversary just resends the data. And again, there's no way you can protect against this if you don't contribute to the key, right? The server doesn't send anything, it gets data delivered immediately. So interestingly, what Google did, and I was really surprised that they could afford this, they said we just keep track of values we have seen before. I mean, cryptographically it's G to the E, it could also be, in fact there is a nonce involved, they just store everything they have seen before. And I was really surprised to hear that, because Google, they have virtual machines, they have orbits, they have many of those, and they're just saying, we're going to store all this data. And what we're going to do, if someone sends me the same data again, I'm just going to block it. I'm just going to say, no, sorry, I'm not accepting this. I may, of course, not, drive away customers and so on. But then I would start a regular key exchange and say, okay, now let's do regular key exchange and start from scratch.
But this might happen also for an honest plan.
Yeah, could happen.
By interrupts in the communication.
Yeah. If you resend data, yeah, it could happen. Exactly. It could also happen, something interesting in this protocol is, I told you that the semi-static key changes like after a few hours. What if you change now to a new semi-static key? The client comes back 5 minutes later and sends you this data, right? It encrypts the data under G to the ES, you, on the server side, you have G to the E as prime. It doesn't match. So you cannot decrypt. And the same appears again. Then the server has to say, look, I cannot understand what you're talking. Please, let's restart key exchange from scratch. But again, it was Google was really interested heavily into this. They wanted to have this. They had it in QUIC. And then it also got adopted to TLS. An interesting story is that this storage of previously seen data has now disappeared in QUIC. They stopped it. There may be several reasons, like it's too much burden. TLS 1.3 said, we give up on this, we're not going to do this. And then Google said, okay, then we're not doing it either. Yeah. Say it again, do they? Do they state if you know, in the previous connection I've sent you this G to the S, do I state how long this is still valid key? I don't know. Maybe they do. I have no idea. Yeah, exactly. When they realize that you're using the wrong key, they would just tell you, look, let's start from scratch. Here's my current version. That's what they would do. So at some point they have some additional effort, right? Because you connect and then they tell you, oh, it doesn't work, let's start again. But this was apparently worth the effort. So they were able to capture this or to cover that, but they still wanted to have 0 round trip time.
So the current QUIC implementation is vulnerable to replay?
I think QUIC in this form is going to disappear or has disappeared. It's going to disappear because they're going to switch to TLS anyway. Because TLS 1.3 has 0 round trip time. This is what they were really aiming for. So, yeah. Yeah, it's even worse, right? Because TLS gave up on basically protecting against replay attacks. But I'll get to that. So here's an example of an attack which was discussed during the design of TLS 1.3 in the context of 0 round trip time by Daniel Kahn Gilmore. And it says, even if you have state, even if you keep track of previous connections, you say, hey, I've seen this ephemeral key before, I'm not going to use that key again. There are problems that you cannot really protect against replay attacks. And here's how the attack works. So this is on a high level, right? So it affects any kind of 0 round trip time protocol. So assume that the client starts and requests a 0 round trip time, like sending the first message G to the E in QUIC. Then the adversary is just going to pass this message on. And then the client says, okay, I've done my key share, so I can deliver data now. And the adversary also just passes the data on to the server. Right, so this is now processed data, so you're going to buy one item of whatever this is. Okay, so now the server says, okay, thanks, I got your data, can we please proceed and do a full key, handshake or key exchange? And now what the adversary is going to do is just going to cut the connection to the client. It will not forward this message. Instead, what it will do is it will somehow enforce a reboot. Right? Okay, this is tough, but maybe it's doable. Somehow you can make sure that the server gets reset. Now, if the server is reset, you're just going to copy the same message again here, from here. Okay? And now the server has to reject for security reasons. Why? What was that? Exactly, right? You lost state. You don't have the information about this G to the E anymore. Right here you got this, let's say, QUIC type of thing. You got G to the E. You lost state to the reboot. Now you're seeing G to the E again. If you accept G to the E, then I'm already done as an adversary because I have replayed the more or less the message. So you better reject. Okay, so you're going to send, no, sorry, I don't want to use that zero round trip key. I want to start from scratch again. And now the adversary starts again forwarding this information. And now the client says, okay, if you just look at the client side right here, it requested a zero round trip time, it sent its data, it wanted to buy something, and then it got the confirmation from the server, now I'm not going to process that data. Now, if you really want to have that item, you're going to resend the data. Maybe in a new session, maybe in that session. And then the adversary just forwards this information. Okay, and now since the data appears here again and is valid, maybe it's in a new session, you're going to buy the item again. Okay, and on the server side, you see that what happened is it was processed twice. One time here, one time here. No chance you can avoid replay attacks. Maybe this was also part why TLS didn't have any or doesn't have any protection, like saying you store data and you check. I think they say you can do this if you like, but in principle it's up to the application layer to protect against replay attacks. And then Google said, okay, cool, if TLS doesn't use it, then we can save the space on our servers for storing all this information. Yeah, it's not replay in the sense that on the protocol level you replay the messages, but it's replay in the sense that you make sure that the data here is processed twice. Yeah. But if on the application layer level you have some protection, like a store which says if you bought an item, you cannot buy the same item within the next 10 minutes or whatever, maybe that works. But again, that's on a different level. Okay. So here's how zero round trip time was used in TLS. And let me stress that this is draft number 12. Right now we are 23, and there have been changes in between. And the biggest change is, initially they also did something QUIC-like, so they had a Diffie-Hellman zero round trip time. And meanwhile, they completely dropped this. Not completely, but they said you'd use only zero round trip time in pre-shared key mode, right, where you already share some information. Okay, but let's go back to draft number 12 and see how they checked or what they did there. So when I presented to you TLS 1.3, there was this one session, there was this one message here called server configuration. That's the point where they planned to have the server include a semi-static key, G to the S. Right? This is how you transport the semi-static key to the client. Right? This is on the first connection, so now I put the semi-static key in there. And now, how do you do zero round trip time? So you start the protocol as you would before. So basically you pick a random nonce and you pick your G to the X, and you're going to signal the server that you want to send early data. Meaning I want to send data with my next message. I don't want to complete the entire handshake before I really want to start sending stuff. Okay, so you already know the semi-static key. So what you're going to do is you're going to derive by some key derivation function the so-called early secret. And this is built from, as in QUIC, from G to the S to the X. So you mix your ephemeral key to the semi-static key of the server. And then you use this early secret, and draft number 12, you could send a kind of finished message or confirmation message for the client. So you see it has this extra 0. And then you can start sending data, also under a key which is derived from the early secret. And then the server can hopefully decrypt, and you can just complete. You see, this is very similar to the regular key exchange. So from then on, you can just complete the other steps of the key exchange protocol and send the server hello and so on. Okay, so since draft 19, they switched to a fully pre-shared key mode, so they dropped the Diffie-Hellman version. So here's the protocol. So you start again sending your client hello. You may want to include some Diffie-Hellman value, but this is optional. Right, so this can be some g to the x, but you don't have to send it. You're going to signal again that you're going to use the early data, and you send again the identity of the pre-shared key you're going to use for that. So from the pre-shared key, you derive a handshake key, as before, and then you use the handshake key in some involved way. So you derive certain subkeys to send the data. And then the protocol continues as before, so the server answers with the server hello, its potential contribution to the key share, so this may be a g to the y, and so on. Okay, and this is the version which is now in there. And you see it's still 0 round trip time, you have one message for the key exchange, and then you start sending data. Okay, and the interesting thing is this is pretty much the resumption. Session resumption says I have been connected to a server before, so we already share a key, the resumption master secret, which is then used as the PSK. And if you share that key, the resumption would exactly like this, except that you don't send data here. So it's also very nice that the protocols here overlap. On the downside, if you use only PSK mode, you don't get forward secrecy, unless you mix in the Diffie-Hellman key here. Oops, sorry, here. Okay, forward secrecy would mean, sorry.
How long is this pre-shared key kept anyway?
Ah,
Probably not kept it too long, is it?
I don't know if they put some restrictions on the lifetime.
So the server would have to keep that state for a really long time if we want to anyway.
Yeah, but if an application can do that.
Oh, application, right. Protocol doesn't say anything like that.
But I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they have some recommendations or strict bounds. I don't know. Okay, so something which you don't have in this fully pre-shared key mode is forward secrecy. So forward secrecy again would mean that you're going to corrupt the secret. And now you see if I have this pre-shared key and I have all these data here, I can just compute the handshake key. Once I have the handshake key, I can derive the key which is used to encrypt the data. So while if you go back to the previous Diffie-Hellman version, the client mixes in some ephemeral secret here. Right? And whatever, maybe this is a signing key which is used later here. If you corrupt that one, you're still missing g to the x. And if the semi-static key, the question is if you can corrupt that key, if lifetime is only a day, if you assume that this is also secure, you just have an ephemeral Diffie-Hellman. Ephemeral in a sense, ephemeral plus semi-static, but that's short time. Okay, so this version actually gave you forward secrecy. The current version does not. But again, TLS said, fine, we want to have only the PSK mode. Okay, and it doesn't stop there. You can go on, and then you say, okay, I have a 0 round trip time on the client side. I want to have a 0.5 round trip time on the server side. 0.5 meaning you have half a round from the client, and then you start sending data. Actually, I think it was called 0.5 round trip time during the process. I think the reference is still in the draft, but they don't call it like this anymore. I think it's called server early data now. Okay, so and here's how it works. At this point, if the client has sent its contribution to the key, you're just waiting for the finished message, right? On the server side, you already have all the information to compute the key. You don't have the authentication of the client, but you already have the information for the key. Now, if you already have the channel key, you can start sending data here. And again, now it's after half round trip time. So this is half a round trip. You can send data as a server. And again, under the condition that you know that at this point there's no authentication, right? The client hasn't computed the signature or it hasn't computed the MAC over the transcript yet. You just start sending data. That's up to your risk if you want to do that. Okay, so we did an analysis of the drafts 12 and 14 back then. The interesting thing is first you have to dig into the security model. If you remember, we said a good key exchange protocol shouldn't have 3 or more honest sessions having the same session identifier. Now, if you think in terms of zero round trip time, right? So the client has 1 and starts sending data. So the session identifier for this short version is SID, right? So this is held by the client and the server, of course. Then the adversary can just go resend this communication here, maybe even resend the encrypted data. And now what's going to happen is, because there's no contribution on the server side, the server is going to have the same SID again. This would be insecure according to our previous definition. But there's nothing we can do about this, right? If you do zero round trip time key exchange, it means only one party contributes. And if the party is malicious, yes, it can resend data. We're not going to protect against this. So what we say is, we have these replayable stages. These are the zero round trip time stages. And in these stages, it can happen that honest parties, or more than 3 honest parties, have the same session identifiers. Fine, we're not going to protect against this. This is on the application layer. Okay? And that's it. That's the only change to the model. This sounds strange, right? I don't have to change anything about the freshness. Do you know why? Right, I just talk about partnering of sessions. I don't touch secrecy of keys here. I don't change anything about the freshness condition. Sounds odd. Any idea? What happens if I do this attack? Right? This guy is going to derive a key. This guy is going to derive the same key. This guy is going to derive the same key again, of course. Can I use this to attack?
Have the same session ID, then final the same definition, it still doesn't satisfy the freshness condition?
Exactly. If you recall, the freshness says I cannot attack, of course, the tested session, and I cannot attack its partner. Or to be precise, its partners. So the only thing we changed is now you can have many partners, right? This session has now 2 partners. It doesn't change anything in the freshness definition, right? It's still good. I want to avoid trivial attacks. Yeah, I know that all these 3 guys have the same key. I cannot make a reveal here and a test here. But that's already in the model. Just about the session identifiers. So I don't even need to touch the security model, the secrecy model here. I can just go as is. Okay, and then basically we looked into the PSK only mode, and we said, yes, this is replayable in this sense, right? The zero round trip time, yes, you can replay data. You can make sure that the party gets the same key. There's nothing we can do about this, but other than that, the keys derived are non-forward secret. Non-forward because, again, if you corrupt the PSK, you get everything anyway. Right? But the keys are still protected. You may be able to make a party use the same key, but you cannot distinguish this key from random. That's what it says. Of course, under crypto assumptions, the key derivation function and so on. So this security result tells you zero round trip time in TLS achieves the best you can hope for. The best you can hope for means you don't have security against replay attacks and you don't have forward secrecy. Anything else you have. That's what it says. So actually that concludes the part about zero round trip time. I do have some question for the break, of course, about zero round trip time, but are there any questions?
In the when you prove it written from the inherent, you use the reject that you got from the server, send it back to the client. But what?
This one? This one?
Yeah. So the reject zero RTT, and if it has some identifier which corresponds to the request, then maybe the, in this case, goes wrong.
You mean if the server stores some information saying, okay, this is the request under some ID, whatever that is, and stores it here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't want to send any rejects to any requests that you already confirmed.
Are you saying I don't want to send out rejects?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be good for security, but bad for faithful connections, right? I mean, you want to tell the honest party, hey, something went wrong, you have to do it again, right? I mean, not sending out error messages is always good from a security viewpoint, bad from functionality.
So you're saying that there is a case in reality where you send the same request twice.
Or maybe I misunderstood. So your question was, should I send out this reject or not?
Yeah, for the same request.
Ah. But you have to, right? Because you had a state loss after the reboot, so you don't know what you have sent out before. Yeah. And if you're in the fresh state, best thing is reject, but then you want to tell the other party as well.
So without this state, this does, I mean, if you don't have state, then you can do it, right?
Yeah, that's what QUIC initially did, right? They stored the state, so they stored basically the nonce and the G to the E. Where's the replay? Oh, there. They stored it, and then if you would send it again, they would just look it up in the list saying, okay, no, I've seen you before, no, I'm not going to do this. And they would, of course, here send out a reject message, right? They would tell the client, something went wrong, here's my current semi-static key or my fresh semi-static key, please try again. They don't want to lose the connection, of course. So we're moving fast, almost through. So now we talk about composition. So when is the break? At 4:30. 4:30. Oh, plenty of time.
8 hours on UC, no?
What's that?
8 hours to the definition, and then
Yeah, now we talk about some more heavy stuff. There are questions?
It's about the zero round-trip data.
Yeah.
We basically including the fact we can without finish the normal one round-trip TLS. Because after the user sends his message, you can and copy, and we see the connection internet message.
So the last part was you can. So you're concerned about the TLS, which one? With Diffie-Hellman or in pre-shared key? The general one being this one? Okay. Okay. If I understood correctly, the question was, doesn't this also affect, let's say, other versions of TLS which don't use zero round trip time? But the main difference is, of course, that this attack works because you start sending data here, right? In any classical way you do key exchange, you first run the key exchange, then you're done, and then you send data, right? And such a key exchange, if it's finished, should be secure against replay attacks by exchanging nonces, for example. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if I understood. So you're saying that what if regular TLS connection somehow gets cut?
Then the client will also not know whether the data has been received or not. So if a normal system
You mean, yeah, this is like, you're talking about network connection problems. If I cut the connection. Okay. Yeah.
So the difference is that you can have a network connection failure even if the network works well.
Yeah. But here from the client side, it basically is in a stable state, right? It's not like if you cut the wire, so you cannot send messages, the client will suddenly, okay, I cannot get messages through, something is wrong.
Normal clients, if they get a network connection failure, they get typically they read the client. Because network connection failures happen.
Yeah. Okay. You're saying that the problem is inherent in networks, right? Or unreliable networks, let's put it this way. Yeah, could be. But here it really displays on the crypto level, right? Oops. Okay, so this brings us to the last part, and this part is about composition. So I think in the program it's called Universally Composable Key Exchange, but I extended this to composition in general, also to cover BR compositional results. Okay, so this is our setting. We have a key exchange protocol running, and now we have a more or less good feeling what we can expect from a key exchange protocol. And then afterwards, we just send data through a channel. So we have looked into what it means to be secure for a key exchange protocol. And yes, you can argue if BR security is the right model, or you want to have UKS or KCI security as well, and so on. It doesn't matter for the moment. So we can make a statement, let's say a decent statement about what we expect from security of a key exchange protocol. We can, more or less, make a decent statement about what we expect from a secured channel. The reason I'm a little bit reluctant to say we can perfectly say what a secured channel is that you will see when Kenny gives his presentation about secure channels that there's still a lot of things to do and things are unclear. So now what we ideally would like to have is something like a statement: if I compose the key exchange protocol with a good channel protocol, then the overall protocol is secure. Okay, so this seems to be obvious, right? Key exchange protocol is good, gives me a random looking key, I use it in a channel protocol, what can go wrong? The answer to this is that I wouldn't know of any attacks because of this. But if you do crypto, you basically want to be convinced that it is secure, right? So we want to give a positive statement, being able to say, yes, this is secure, according to some model, some proof, and so on. So we really want to have automatic security guarantees for the composed thing. And this is what we're aiming for in this part of the presentation. And let's start with BR security. and what kind of compositional guarantees it gives you. So Hugo and Ran Panetti were the first to look into this. They did composition with secure channel protocols, or with some version of secure channel protocols. And later we did an extension to any kind of symmetric key protocol, right? So you have your key agreement, you get a key in the end, and you, whatever symmetric key protocol you can imagine, be it challenge response or channel, it should be secure. However, for the talk, I will focus on some simple case. Let's say afterwards, after you have established the key, you're just going to send encrypted message to each other. Okay, let's keep it simple. You can, again, you can put any protocol in here you like. So the question is, what kind of security do we expect and what do we want? And here it is that the adversary observes the entire communication, right? Not just the channel protocol and not just the key exchange, but the entire thing. And its goal is to break security of this protocol down here, right? Its goal is not to break security of the key exchange. This can be a mean to break security down here, but in general it's interested to read these messages, right? If it means to break the key exchange protocol, get the keys and then decrypt, fine. But the attack goal is really on the protocol level. And here, if we talk about encryption, one of the goals may be find out M or M prime, or distinguish it from random or whatever, right? But the goal is really to attack this protocol down here. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away from the security model the reveal queries. Why? Or why is it okay to do so? Exactly. The reason for introducing the reveal queries was that I told you, yeah, what if you use the keys in some bad channel protocol? Okay, here's your protocol. If it's a bad channel protocol, fine, you're going to lose the key. If it's a good channel protocol, yeah, you're not going to lose the key. But now this is already used in the channel protocol, and I leave it up to the channel protocol to protect the keys or to give out half of the bits or whatever. Right? This is part of the protocol specification now. So I'm going to take away the reveal queries. But what I will look into is you can run multiple sessions of those, right? Remember, we have the key exchange, and the key exchange, the idea is that you have many, many sessions running. Some the adversary may be involved, and so on. And each of these sessions then is followed by one of these channel protocols, right? So, and now if I consider the overall adversary attacking the channel protocol, this particularly means that I'm interested in it can have 1, 2, or 3 instances of this channel protocol, right? So it's not a single instance, it's multiple instances.
It's only taking away the reveal queries only because you're allowing any symmetric protocol.
Yeah.
You're doing specifically with secure channel.
Yeah, if the symmetric key protocol itself supports some kind of reveal queries in its security game, then you have them back in. But I'm taking it away from the basically the key exchange part for the moment. Okay. So I cannot show you that BR security alone suffices for securely composing key exchange with any symmetric key protocol. There are some prerequisites I need, and the first one is I actually need forward secrecy. Okay? And why do I need forward secrecy? So this is now the situation. I have sessions again, right? So one party, it's running the key exchange protocol, and then it's encrypting or sending encrypted information. And I have many of those. And now it can happen that, for example, that this encryption of the message has already started, right? So the adversary has full control of the network, decides when to send the next message to what party. So it kept on running this session here till the very end of the key exchange, and then started saying, okay, now send the first encrypted message. And here's your reply to the encrypted message, and so on. But this session here, for example, may still be in the key exchange phase. Right? Again, the adversary has full control over the order of messages. So it could happen that you corrupt this message, this party here, and if you corrupt that party here, in principle, sessions which have happened in the past and completed, or should put it here, it's unclear if this session is still secure. I'm not saying you can break it, but at least I want to have the guarantee that this session is still sound. And this is, of course, guaranteed if you have forward secrecy, because it says forward secrecy, if I corrupt this long-term secret of the server here, then the key exchange session here is completed and it cannot be insecure because of the corrupt. Okay, so this is why I need forward secrecy. The second property I need to know who's talking to whom. Right, so again, I have this notion of maybe public session identifiers or matching conversations or whatever. So I can pretty much say this party is talking to this party. So in this example here, for example, this client to this server, and I know that this session here is talking to that session. And the reason why I need this is more or less the same we had in this multiple test queries versus single test queries. And you see in a minute where in the proof it shows up. Okay, so here's the proof idea. With these two requirements, how you can prove that the composed protocol is secure. Okay, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to replace all the keys which we have here step by step by random strings. Okay, so I'm going to start with that key and I'm going to replace it with a random string. Now, BR secrecy tells me this is fine, right? Even if I have some other session being already here, I have forward secrecy, so I can do this. I can replace this key here by random, and if the adversary now would spot a difference, I can just use it to mount an attack against BR secrecy, right? Because this key should still be fresh, and it's indistinguishable from random. And now the same problem appears as before. Now, let's say this party, under this now random key, encrypts this message, and this party, they are connected, this party here would actually decrypt, but now this party still holds the key number 3, right? And then there would be a mismatch. It cannot decrypt under this key, or can decrypt, but then the message it gets is something completely else. But I know who's partnered with whom, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the keys consistently, right? So I know that this guy is talking to this guy. So if I replace the key here, I'm just going to do the very same here. And again, this is fine, they're partnered, you cannot test one and reveal the other one, and so on. I can do this, right? Consistently changing is fine. And then I'm going to do this with all the other sessions as well. Okay, so now what I've done is in all these sessions of honest parties, you basically start after the key exchange, and you start with fresh random keys. But this means that basically the key exchange protocol is completely irrelevant, right? You had some key here in mind, and I've just told you, drop this key, throw it away, here's your new fresh key, start with that. Once you encrypt here, once you want to encrypt here. Okay? But that means it means that what happened in the key exchange protocol is it doesn't matter anymore, right? I can just remove the key exchange step from this. Okay? And now what you have here is basically you have an adversary attacking the channel protocol or the encryptions in multiple instances. And each instance has a fresh random key. Now if you assume that this encryption scheme is secure underneath, then the adversary cannot break this anymore. That's the proof. That's why BR security with forward secrecy and the ability to see who is partnered with whom provides compositional security. In our work, we have actually also shown that if you want to have compositional security, with any symmetric key protocol, then you need to have some kind of public session matching. So you cannot do without. It is necessary. It is not only sufficient with forward secrecy to provide compositional security, it's also necessary to have that. You need to be able to say these two parties talk to each other. They have the same key. What's that? Is forward secrecy necessary? I don't know. I wouldn't even have a good guess.
Does it really have to be public so the adversary knows it, or does it kind of be public so if the game knows it and knows where you know it?
It has to be public. It has to really be the game, just looking at the incoming and outgoing messages and being able to say, okay, I know that you are partnered with that guy. Just from looking at the transcript, I have to know that they belong to each other.
Does it have to be transcript, or can it be some sort of state?
No, it needs to be for outsiders, so it's really depending on the transcript. Okay. So next up is simulation-based security. This will be a little bit heavy because we talk about UC and so on. But before we go into the break, here's the question for the break. And this will make especially Felix happy because he worked on that. Can you give me a zero round trip time protocol which is forward secret? Right, so I'm going to corrupt the secret key. No, I'm going to corrupt the server's key, right? I'm going to corrupt the secret key of the server. Of course, then future sessions may be completely insecure, especially since I can replay them. But what about past sessions? Can they still be secure, or are they insecure? And hint, you can use state on the server side to achieve that.